Good morning, this is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. PsychicTarot.ca, book your tarot reading and unlock your spiritual journey. And the Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids and cubs, and welcome to Season 5 and episode number 671. No, 91. 691 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. 100% Canadian. Today, recording day is Monday, July 14th, 2025, and it is going to be a lovely day here at the Beaver Lodge. I'm seeing the sun just peek up above the roof of our next door neighbor here, and it looks like it's going to be a nice day. I am your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver A. And with me, as always, is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. A big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Pepper Master, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and PsychicTarot.ca. Got a good show for you today. Hope everybody had a lovely weekend. And, well, before we get into it, Mr. Grizzly, how's your mental health today, sir?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, I woke up at 5:30 to start getting prepped for the new schedule, right?
Right.
And Lola did not want to get out of bed. She's still asleep because the idea was to get up at 5:30, get washed up, get ready to go, and take her out at 6, and then sit down at the computer at 6:30 and get ready for this. That's 7. And she didn't get out of bed. So that was like, okay, I guess we'll have to ease into it over the course of the next few days because I start the new job on next Monday, and I'll only be able to do half an hour in the morning because I'm going to have to be out the door at 7:28 at the absolute latest, due to the fact that I got to get on a bus right away to make my connection so I can get to the office in time. So it'll take about an hour to get to work. Commuting.
Yes. Don't you miss it?
Well, no, actually, I don't. My commute before was a 15-minute walk. And prior to that, I didn't have a commute per se because for almost 30 years I was on the road.
Right.
I just get in my vehicle and drive. I seldom went to the office. Unless I needed to pick up something, I would just go to the client site, which made it a little bit easier, right? Instead of having to drive across town to get to the office and then turn around and drive back back downtown, which is usually downtown Ottawa or downtown Gatineau is usually where most of the work took place. So, yeah. And that was, usually a company vehicle provided or a vehicle allowance or something. And now it's nothing like that. So at some point I will look at getting a vehicle, but I'm not in a rush.
I know. And you probably have a, don't want to get burned again vibe about it.
Yeah.
Because it was like right before COVID when you released the other one.
I leased a vehicle in January of 2020. Then the whole world shut down.
Yep.
Now, thankfully, I was very fortunate that the leasing company, Honda, and I still will say it, I just wrote them an email and said, look, I don't have a source of income anymore.
Right.
Like millions of people. And they were like, yeah, don't worry, we're going to defer it. We're going to defer everybody's payments to the end of the lease by 3 months, I think it was, because they figured, that would give you time, because they know, okay, lost wages, and then you're going to burn through whatever money you have to try and keep yourself afloat until such time as that, you got income coming in again.
Right.
And of course, then I did go back to work after a couple of months, and that income was only 80% of what I formerly had, and I had no vehicle allowance on that.
Right.
And that was a 6-month period. So, when all these people whine about the money they lost, I lost money too, people.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't take to the streets and scream at the federal government for something that was beyond their control, and the mandates were provincial. Anyway,
Yep. I know. There's somebody that was trying to raise that issue again this weekend when, on a subject that was totally unrelated. And it was sort of like, well, maybe we were right. It's like, no, you
No.
weren't.
No.
It's like, no, you weren't. And you had your say, and you got to say your piece, and you were heard, and you were outnumbered. So if you want to remain trapped in forever 2022, I guess the mind is the greatest prison, but the rest of us have moved on. You should probably too. Right. You weren't right. Well, let's put it this way. You were right, as in politically, but you weren't correct.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
I just want to respond to Bucky here. Bucky says, I chose to spend more and live downtown, a 15-minute walk from work, so I wouldn't need a car. I save so much on gas and parking, etc., that I don't hesitate to take an Uber when I need to.
Yeah.
That was my life for the last couple of years. I've been living downtown, for a very long time now, 15 years in this place, and I'm never leaving here. But my new job has me working in another part of town.
Mm-hmm.
I have no control over that.
Yep.
And somebody says, well, find another job. It's been a year since I've had one.
Yeah, that's just easy. Just find another job.
I've had so many people.
Simple.
Just find one that's closer to home.
Simple.
Because let me just go to the job tree, and I'm not picking on you for that either, Bucky. Just so I can be clear, I'm not. I've had other people say to me online.
Yes.
Well, just find yeah. See, here's the thing. So the job I got is the closest thing to being exactly what I wanted, number one. And number two, the one that's paying me what I was hoping to get, because I was getting all of these offers online that were, for want of a better term, lowball bullshit. I mean, like they were offering me, in some cases, $20,000 less than I was paid the year before. I'm like, what? Are you people out of your frickin' mind? Are you out of your mind? In some cases, they were, offering me the same as what I had earned. But most of them were offering $20,000 to $30,000 less. And I'm like, no, you have to understand, I'm at the point in my life where I need double what I was earning so that I can, not be a ward of the state when I can no longer work.
Right.
Like, pay me more now so the public doesn't have to pay me later.
Right.
Is what it boils down to now. I mean, public paying me later. Let's not even get into how bad that is right now. But
Yep. I hear you.
We'll have a conversation. We'll have an in-depth conversation about the current social safety net that we have in this country and how it's been failing people for quite some time. We're not going to talk about that in the detail today, but at some point in time, we'll have a conversation, and we'll bring in a few guests who can, speak to lived experience about how bad it is. We've had a few guests on in the past where we've, peppered the conversation with that. Folks, we've talked about ODSP and how little that pays. We've had a few folks over the years, but I think we should, at some point in time, let's just do a show where it's like a special, like an afternoon special or something. Mm-hmm. On tonight's very special episode of Blossom.
Blossom blossoms. Oh, no. Oh, man. No, I get it too. For me, it was a similar thing, but I mean, different reasons. Just
Mhm.
they won't let me have a driver's license because I'm apparently a menace. So, I've lived downtown too, pretty much,
Yeah.
all my adult life, and like Bucky says, I mean, not having to buy a parking spot in your condo, not having to pay taxes on that and condo fees out every month on that, not having to pay parking at any time because you don't have a car, not having, yes, it's, there are many times it would have been convenient to just be able to pop into a car and
Mhm.
go somewhere. Or you know, don't get me wrong, but whenever I needed to be somewhere fast, like I say, you Uber or taxi, and well, that's what the delivery fee
Yeah.
at stores are for, right?
Oh,
Like
yeah,
it's
yeah,
when
yeah.
you can't bring the sofa back yourself. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, yeah, I'll just charge me the extra $35. But the amount, when you add it all up over the course of the year, didn't come anywhere close to what I would have spent on insurance and gas and parking and all that kind of stuff.
Maintenance
So it's
and
like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Agreed. And that was, one of the reasons why I just said I can no longer afford to keep my car. I didn't have a vehicle allowance anymore.
Hmm.
When the company was purchased by the bigger corp, everything changed. That we went from I was a salaried employee who was paid on the 15th and the last working day of the month,
Mhm.
switched to getting paid every 2 weeks.
Mhm.
So it's actually a little bit less money per
Right.
paycheck, because you get 2 additional paychecks in a year. Instead of 24, you get 26, and it does thin it out a little bit. And then not having the vehicle allowance really harmed me. And they moved me to an hourly wage from salary.
Right.
So
Yeah. That's a lot of changes. And that's just like, um, uh, just a little nick, a little cut, a little nick, a little cut. But when you add them all together,
that's by
it
a
starts to
thousand
add up.
cuts. Yeah.
Yeah, indeed, indeed. And yes, there's a premium for living downtown. I mean, had I bought the same condo in the suburbs, it would have been a lot
Mhm.
less. But you know, after a couple of years, the difference was very easily made up.
Well, and that's the other thing too, is because I have friends who desperately wanted to buy homes, so they bought in Orleans or Barhaven or something like that, and they're lovely communities.
Mhm.
I'm not going to pick on them. I'm not.
No, no, they are.
They're lovely communities, and I know people who love those communities and spend most of their lives in those communities. They almost never come downtown, right?
Hmm.
Unless work brings them downtown. Some people work in their communities, and a lot of people can work from home now. Many people do live there and work downtown, and the commute they hate with a passion, which is why so many people during COVID and the start of the shutdown of commuting, if you will, uh, really help people refocus what they wanted out of life
Mhm.
and what they wanted out of their careers. And a lot of people just switch careers
Yep.
because they're like, you know what? I'm not doing this 90-minute commute every day
Yep.
anymore. Or 60 minutes, whatever it is, 2 hours or an hour and a half in the morning and an hour and a half at night, 3 hours to 2 hours a day, traveling back and forth of unpaid time, unproductive time,
Mhm.
not leisure time, because it's not.
No.
It's like somebody did say to me and on a Twitter conversation about, well, you've had the last year off to relax. I go,
Oh,
relax,
no. No.
bro. I have no money. How does one relax?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't understand that type of thinking. It's like
I really,
everybody knows that the hardest job that anybody will ever have is looking for work.
it's difficult and it's stressful.
Exactly. So it's like, well, what do you got to worry about? You relax. You should be like completely cool. It's like, no.
If we
It's
had a
either been a long
UBI,
time since you've been out of work or
well, if we had a UBI that could support us properly,
yeah,
that's one thing, but we just don't.
yeah,
And at EI, I've got no more no more money coming in. That's it.
yeah,
It's done.
yeah,
I'm
yeah. That ran
finished.
out some time ago.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
uh, I have I'll get my first pay on the 31st of July, which I think is a midweek, something like that.
Hmm.
But I'll only have 4 days on that because of
Right.
the way it starts. Right, I start on the 21st.
Right.
Or 5 days, so I'll have the 21st to the 25th,
Yep.
which will show up on my first pay on the 31st, which is a Thursday.
Hmm.
5 days is better than nothing, but it's still
Yep.
I gotta
Absolutely.
stretch it, you know?
Yeah. Speaking of employment, Mr. Grizzly, there was some numbers out on Friday.
Yeah, jobs are up, eh?
Yeah, according to Statistics Canada, the jobless rate in Canada has gone down for the first time since the month of January, from 7% to 6.9% after the Canadian economy recorded 83,000 jobs in June.
Mm.
Wholesale and retail led all other categories in terms of job growth. There's been 55,000 jobs in manufacturing that have been lost since the beginning of the year, though. So you want to have an idea of how the Trump tariffs are hitting. They are hitting. They are hitting. It's not negligible, and that's why I keep on saying, domestically, where is the announcements for the additional programs to come into the aid of the workers, those 55,000 workers, and the various sectors that they're there, that they're a part of. There's been a lot of talk about it in the campaign, but I haven't heard a specific announcement yet. So I'm still waiting for that. The positive job number, however, people are wondering whether or not the month previous represented a bottoming out of job losses, and this is a rebound, or it's just a one-time anomaly. So again, we'll need more data points to know that. But the Bank of Canada, what looked like the odds were good that there would be an interest rate cut announced on July 30th, which is their next meeting. And it seems that might be delayed again because of these job numbers. People are waiting to see what they would probably want to see what the inflation numbers are now, to see how it all goes together. But a lot of people were thinking, with all those manufacturing job losses and all that kind of other stuff, that now would probably be a good time for the first one, because they have been delaying it because the economy has been performing better than anybody had expected by this point, given all the tariffs. But there are still, while the overall economy is doing well and things are compensating, external trade is increasing and all that kind of stuff. Tourism to the United States is dropping, but there's increased tourism to Canada, there's increased tourism to Canada, but there's increased tourism from Canadians within Canada as well. And you had something on that, Mr. Grizzly, I believe.
Well, so I'm just reading here. This is Uncover the News sent me this earlier, and this is from, this was 5 a.m. today. This was published on CTV News. May not make it through the end of summer. Canada's duty-free shops struggling amid drop in cross-border travel. And this is according to one individual who owns, John Slip, the owner of the Woodstock duty-free shop in Belleville, New Brunswick. I didn't know there was a Belleville, New Brunswick before this morning.
Oh, there we go.
But the Woodstock, New Brunswick, Woodstock duty-free shop in Belleville, New Brunswick. Okay, I'll do the geography on that later. He says he plans to close his store within the next 6 weeks, citing plummeting sales, a drop in Canadian travelers, and the lack of federal support. Canadians are not traveling across the border in anywhere near the numbers they normally would be. He said in an interview with CTV News Channel on Saturday, he said at the end of last year, we were down 20% from 2019, still climbing out of the COVID hole. Now we're talking 50, 55 to 60% down versus 2019, which is the benchmark. He says, while American visitors are welcome, Slip says his business is heavily dependent upon Canadian travelers. And Canadians just aren't crossing the border. So I feel for these folks. I really do. I genuinely do. Because when we said Trump is going to harm the tourism industry, it wasn't just in his country.
Yep.
It's hurting us as well.
Oh, yeah.
And you got to imagine duty-free stores along the southern border with Mexico and the U.S. are going through the same thing right now.
I would assume so, yes. Because here, according to Forbes magazine, it says that Canadian visitors to the U.S. have plummeted 33% in June, which is the 6th straight month of steep declines. According to Suzanne Rowan Kelleher, who's part of the Forbes staff here, it says that last year, Canadian tourists made up roughly 1/4 of all foreign travelers who came to the United States. 1/4. According to the U.S. National Travel and Tourism Office, collectively spending $20.5 billion in 2024, nearly double the $10.4 billion Americans spent at McDonald's over the same period. The U.S. Travel Association warned in February that even a 10% drop in Canadian inbound tourism could translate to a $2.1 billion loss, spending and 140,000 jobs jeopardized in the hospitality and related sectors. And the new data suggests those losses will be exponentially higher. there's a graphic that they have here that I'm just going to put on screen that shows here the year-over-year decline of Canadian tourists in the United States, and we see here,
Wow.
February 2025, it's minus 23%. In March, it's minus 32%. April, minus 35%. May, minus 38%. And June, it seems that there's a little additional travel to the United States, but it's still down 33%.
It's a big drop.
Yeah.
And look at the air travel is down in May. What was that down to?
Oh, I don't remember off the top of my head.
Oh, it was right there on the graphic.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. If you bring the graphic back up, you can.
Oh, yes. Oh, sorry. Yes. I see air travel. Yes. Okay. I see it. Yes. Because there were two columns.
Yeah, there
And
was
I
car
only
travel,
looked,
air travel.
and I only looked at one. Yes. Okay. I'll bring it right back up on the screen there. So the kids, and then travel February, it was minus just down 2%.
Yeah.
In March, 14%, April, 20%, May, 24%, and June, minus 22%.
So minus 14 in March would represent a massive change in travel habits of families for the March break, where ordinarily they would probably go south to Florida to Disney World or California to Disneyland, depending upon which part of Canada you live in.
Yeah. Or Vermont or Colorado to ski.
Right. And people in March, they're just like, nope.
Nope.
We're going skiing. We're going either out west or out east, but we're not going south. Disneyland, Disney World, nope, not doing that.
Indeed.
And you can thank the president for that.
Yeah, indeed.
Disneyland, Disney World, don't get mad at us.
Yeah. Indeed. The article continues. In early February, when President Donald Trump began talking about tariffs and started referring to Canada as the 51st state, then Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau told Canadians not to spend vacation dollars in the U.S., and he repeated that call to action until he left office in April. 3/4 of Canadians who had previously planned a trip to the U.S. say the tariff announcements influenced their plans. Over half, 56% of those who had been planning to visit the United States have since decided to travel elsewhere, according to a survey by Léger Marketing of over 1,500 Canadian adults fielded in mid-May. Ongoing headlines in multiple news outlets of more than 50 Canadian tourists being detained at the U.S. border have driven Charlie Angus, a recent retired minister in Canada's House of Commons, to call for his government to, quote, do the right thing and issue a travel warning to any Canadian about the threats they might face from the United States government, and calling the U.S., quote, a nation that has no respect for individual rights or the rule of law. U.S. Customs and Border Protection declined to comment, instead directing Forbes to contact Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, which I'm sure they just have operators standing by to pick up that call. But yes, there's about, I think, 55 Canadians now that are currently detained in some way or form by ICE. And then you have U.S. governors, mostly Democrat governors, of course, saying, hey, not all Americans, don't punish us for, what's going on.
Sorry,
it's like
your president painted you with that brush.
Yeah, it's like, and they've come up here and they've asked us, to come back, and they had meetings. And Susan Holt, the premier of New Brunswick, was pretty blunt. It's like, yeah, pretty much, not in these exact words, but yeah, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Right. But thank you. And, and I can understand in that sense, the Democrat governors and whatnot saying, that, hey, it wasn't us, and, don't punish us. But
we understand that. However,
55 of us have been detained. It's not about you. Well, it's not about you.
And this from Christian says, I no longer feel anything for the business crying about Canadian visitors. They don't give a shit that we might end up in a detention center. They only care about their profit loss. Yes. Now, and again, when I was saying I feel for these folks, I was talking about the Canadian duty-free shop owners in Canada.
Yes.
Who are no longer getting Canadians coming back from the U.S. to buy duty-free products. That's specifically referring to Canadian businesses.
Yeah.
Just so we're clear on that. That's all.
Yeah. And then, according to the article, the U.S. is looking at a significant 9% drop in U.S. international arrivals for 2025. That's all countries combined. And a drop of 8.5 billion or 4.7% in international visitor spending relative to last year. according to the latest forecast from Tourism Economics, a nonpartisan Oxford economics company tracking tourism statistics. But the true damage is actually twice as catastrophic because 2025 was supposed to be a big growth year for international tourism, Adam Sachs, president of Tourism Economics, previously told Forbes. The U.S. was projected to see a $16.3 billion increase in tourism revenue from international markets and is now facing losses of up to $12.5 billion. So that's about a $29 billion swing.
That's a lot. Wow.
So $29 billion, that's incredible. And what was it said? 10% drop would, in Canadian inbound tourism alone, is a $2.1 billion loss. So when we're talking about a $29 billion swing from the projected revenue to decline. And what's really interesting about this is that tourism is about one of the only sectors, business sectors, when you list them all, in which the United States has the trade surplus with the rest of the world. And Trump's
That's
whole
correct.
thing is about, reducing the trade deficits to put it such that the United States has a trade surplus in everything because the United States has to win on everything all the time and everybody else has to lose
Yeah, that's
in Trump world. And the one thing on which they were actually winning, he's killing.
Yeah. Well, you got to remember he's an idiot.
Oh, yeah. You know what? This weekend, I had a little bit of time to go to sandbanks to swim like this, and I just had 24 hours where I got to forget what an idiot he was. So, but
Well, I
thank
tried
you
to
for
remind
reminding
everybody over the course of the weekend. I did a grizzly growl talking
Yes.
about how much of an idiot he is. I
I
mean,
saw that. Yep.
it's
It's painful.
it is.
It's painful. And it's almost, listen, yes, he is hurting us, but the damage that he is just doing to his own country and his country's reputation just makes it such that it's as bad as it is here, it's going to be worse there.
Oh yes.
It's going to be worse there. And like you, I just have no sympathy.
No.
I just have none. It's like I understand you personally, the people who are coming here and say, hey, don't forget about us, we're not all Americans, did not vote for him. I get that. But as I said before, it's the damage he is doing to us and the damage that he wants to do to us.
Oh,
And
yes.
just the eternal yo-yoing that none of us can get a moment of peace because he keeps on pulling the rug out and pulling the rug out and pulling the rug out. This makes it such that again, please stop flattering yourselves because it's not about you.
No.
We have 55 citizens being detained for no real apparent reasons. It's not about you. We're choosing us. We're choosing us. We're not. It's not that we're abandoning you, the people in America who actually do like us and actually are our friends. It's just we have to choose. At some point, you got to respect yourself.
Well, and you have to take care of your own house first, which is what we're doing, because
right.
we've been left with no other choice.
Exactly.
There's no other choice. We have to take care of our own house first. Hey, you know what? To steal and paraphrase a line, we're full up right now. We can't take any more. I'm paraphrasing because Trump wants to kick out every single person that doesn't look like me, I think.
Yeah.
I mean,
well,
how many American citizens have been literally detained and being deported? But where are you going to deport an American citizen to?
Yeah. Well, that's the number one thing. But Trump is actually on record. There is video of him saying like this, that he wants to send away the homegrowns next.
Yeah.
Right. So those are other tweets that I've said, it's, I believe this and it's only those immigrants and it's all that kind of stuff. And it's like, dude, you're not paying attention here. Did you miss this when he said this in April? It's like the guy wants to deport Rosie O'Donnell.
Yeah. He said he wants to remove her citizenship.
Right.
He can't do that. She's what, 4th or 5th generation American citizen?
Yeah.
She has roots that go back to Ireland, and she's seeking Irish citizenship. I don't know if she has it or not right now, but he wants to take away her citizenship. Well, you can't actually do that, but he's going to try.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. He's going to try.
which first they came for and I know how then I stood up and spoke up because I know how the rest of the goddamn poem goes. Well, now he's coming for citizens.
Yeah. So there's a lot of people that are sitting there and like this, and they're still thinking like this. He'll never come for me. It was like, dude, he's already talking. Like it's been months now since he's talked about
Yes.
applying the same thing to actually American-born citizens,
So if you say anything that runs
even the white
afoul of
ones,
yeah,
even the white ones.
if you say anything that runs afoul of his weak, shallow, thin-skinned ego,
Yep.
anything that flies in the face of his overt narcissism, he's going to punish you.
Yep.
And I just read something here. It said apparently the FBI is telling media companies across the United States to lay off the Epstein case and the Epstein files, or you'll no longer have access to the administration.
Yep. Yep. He really, 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 really doesn't want anybody to be talking about Epstein, which tells me, gee, we found the place on the doll where it hurts when you push.
Apparently so.
So stick your finger in there and just make him scream. Now, on a whole other front, and again, there's some oblivious U.S. news with regard to this. In Canada, as you know, we now have wildfire season, but hey, climate change is not happening. It's not real. But we have an annual wildfire season now. And about 6,000 residents from about 6,000 residents from two remote First Nations in Northern Ontario were evacuated on Friday. The government of Manitoba, as we reported, announced a second state of emergency this summer because 12,000 additional people had been ordered to evacuate. And I think there was already about 22,000 out at that point, and there's very little room left. And in Saskatchewan, another 2,000 people were forced out of their homes on Friday. So there's a lot of stuff burning. And again, our wonderful American friends decided that they were going to go full Karen and write the manager.
Yeah, I saw that.
So,
are you what?
From the Congress, yes, from the Congress of the United States, dated July 7th, 2025.
I'll grab a coffee while I read this into the record. I'll be right back.
Okay. To the Canadian ambassador to the United States, Kirsten Hillman. Dear Ambassador Hillman, we write to you today on behalf of our constituents who have had to deal with suffocating Canadian wildfire smoke filling the air to begin the summer. As we are entering the height of the fire season, we would like to know how your government plans on mitigating wildfires and the smoke that makes its way south. As I'm sure you know, this is not the first year Canadian wildfire smoke has been an issue. In 2023, Canada had its worst year for wildfires on record. Last year's fire season was considered one of the worst, and this year seems to be a continuation of those previous years. While we know a key driver of this issue has been a lack of active forest management.
Do they rake the forest floor?
Yes. We've also seen things like arson as another way multiple large wildfires have ignited in Canada. With all the technology that we have at our disposal, both in preventing and fighting wildfires, this worrisome trend can be reversed if proper action is taken. Yes, of course, yes. Our constituents have been limited in their ability to go outside and safely breathe due to the dangerous air quality the wildfire smoke has created in our neck of the woods. Summer months are the best time of the year to spend time outdoors recreating, enjoying time with family, and creating new memories. But this wildfire smoke makes it difficult to do all of those things. Canada has been a friendly neighbor of the United States and the states we represent. So, given the significance of this issue, we urge you to relay this message to your government, in particular, Natural Resources Canada and the Canadian Foreign Service. Thank you for your time and consideration. We look forward to your response. Now, on this, I'm going to put out right away, kits and cubs, that of course, when they're talking, and this is signed by Tom Tiffany, a member of Congress, and Brad Finstead, another member of Congress. Now, I'm going to go here into this this letter here, and he says, they say, while we know a key driver of this issue has been lack of active forest management. Okay. See, over here in Canada, we believe that a key driver of this issue has been climate change. And you, the United States, as the largest belcher of CO2, and we've been asking you for decades now to do something really significant about it, and you haven't really. We would like to say as you said in your letter, with all the technology that we have at our disposal, both in preventing and fighting the release of excessive CO2 into our atmosphere, this worrisome trend can be reversed if proper action is taken. So how about chop chop? You get on that too. And then this Tom Tiffany guy seemed to get a little upset because Canadians started telling him off. He says, "Listen, I'm just trying to save my constituents from having to call an ambulance. And I'm sure, Mr. Tiffany of the GOP, if we look at your voting record on healthcare, it might be more that your constituents are actually trying to avoid the cost of the ambulance
Yes.
to the hospital if they need it. So your voting record on the environment and your voting record on healthcare are not that great. So don't you dare be stepping up. Now, of course, this is for domestic consumption, of
Mm.
course, using us as a punching bag, but try to make us believe that you actually care about your citizens having to go to the hospital because of
Well,
smoke, and that you're doing all you can to try to prevent it by writing a letter to the manager.
it reminds me of the woman who sits. This I'm going back a number of years when you could smoke in bars and restaurants, and the bar area where you could also dine was a smoking area. And it reminds me of the woman who sits down at the bar and orders a meal, and the gentleman beside her just finished his meal and lit up a cigarette. She goes, "Excuse me, I'm eating. Do you mind?" And he says, "No, I don't," and continued to smoke his cigarette. And I looked at her and I said, "Lady, you chose to sit in the smoking section,
Hmm.
just like I did. I'm allergic to cigarette smoke. I chose to sit at the bar and have my meal here.
Hmm.
This was my choice. He has the right to do what he's doing.
Mhm. Yeah.
The smoke drifts over, then go sit somewhere else."
Yeah. Now,
It's like this. Can you do something about the smoke from Canada? Yeah, yeah. Let's do something about climate change. Let's mitigate that by stopping.
yeah. So, if we just had a team of people with more rakes managing well, you know what? If you're really concerned, when you had fires in Los Angeles, we sent water bombers. So why don't you send some of your best, some of your best forest management team members up here to help us rake that forest if you are so concerned about that,
Well, you remember
sir?
the viral video of the guy going, "Look at those American heroes right there in that plane. Look at them scooping up that water and dropping that on the fire." And people are going, "That's a Canadian water bomber from Quebec. Thank you very much. We send them
Yes,
down every year."
exactly. Now, somebody from Canada, not exactly sure who, but decided to write a response to that. So, to the esteemed members of the United States Congress from your friendly neighbor to the north, Canada, dated July 9th, subject, please stop sending us your guns. We prefer maple syrup. Dear honorable members of Congress, greetings from the land of poutine, polite drivers, and passive aggressively cold stares. We write to you not with malice, but with maple sweet sincerity and mounting frustration. While we deeply value our long standing friendship, forged through shared values, vast borders, and a mutual love of Tim Hortons, yours secretly, we must address a growing concern that's shooting holes, literally, in our peaceful Canadian society: the flood of illegal firearms pouring across the US Canada border. According to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, over 70% of all guns used in crimes in Canada can be traced back to the United States. That's right. More than two-thirds of the illegal firearms making our cities more dangerous are imported from your side of the border without even so much as a customs declaration or a sorry, eh? Here in Canada, we have strict gun control laws, extensive background checks, and we don't usually think of open carry as a lifestyle unless we're talking about a thermos of hot chocolate in February. And yet, your guns are sneaking across the border like they're trying to escape a country music concert with no encore. Some highlights or lowlights for your consideration. In Toronto, 2022 police data showed that 86% of handguns used in crimes were illegally imported, mostly from the United States. Gun crime in Canada has risen 81% since 2009, in no small part due to these imported weapons. Canadian Border Services has reported increased seizures of ghost guns, 3D printed, untraceable,
Mhm.
and made with more parts than a bad IKEA project. We kindly ask, could you please keep your guns at home, or at least put some tighter rules around them? We'll continue sending you oil, comedians, and apologetic pop stars, but we prefer not to trade Drake for a Glock.
Yeah, no kidding.
This isn't just about safety. It's, it's about the soul of the neighborhood. When one house is on fire, the other can't just spray it with kindness and hope for the best. We need action. We need cooperation. We need fewer handguns and more handshakes. So, from the frozen tundra of Nunavut to the foggy shores of Newfoundland, we urge you to take stronger steps to crack down on illegal gun trafficking. Your country may have the right to bear arms, but we'd like the right to not bear the consequences. With neighborly love and just a sprinkle of exasperation, signed the people of Canada. CC Canadian geese, who may soon be our only border patrol. CC that one guy in Saskatchewan who owns a moose named Gary.
Well, did you hear what Wob Canoe had to say? Because I've got some quotes here from his press conference the other day. This is
Oh,
good.
please,
This is,
please.
when asked by reporters during a news conference Thursday, Premier Wob Canoe praised the work of American firefighters who have come to
Right.
help Canada battle the wildfires. I've shaken the hands of American firefighters in northern Manitoba who are helping us out, and I would challenge these ambulance chasers in the U.S. Congress to go and do the same, and to hear how much the American firefighting heroes who are here, how much they loved our province. He then criticized the politicians for sowing division. This is what turns people off from politics, is when you got a group of Congress people trying to trivialize and make hay out of a wildfire season where we've lost lives in our province. There's no place for that in politics. If you can't get likes on Instagram from your own skills as a politician, don't bother trying to throw other people under the bus during a state of emergency.
Hmm.
Coming in hot, once again, Premier Canoe. We
Well,
salute you, sir.
yep, I have a little bit of a clip of that, and that actually is the comment that got Tom Tiffany to respond. So here we'll have a little bit of a Premier
There's in
Canoe here. Oops, hold on. I'm just going to make sure that the sound is
Yeah,
directed
yeah,
the
I
right
could,
way.
I could hear it. Yeah, it was good.
It was good?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, just
Perfect.
back up and
Okay,
load it down.
so there we go.
Well, I've shaken the hands of American firefighters in northern Manitoba who are helping us out, and I would challenge these ambulance chasers in the U.S. Congress to go and do the same, and to hear how much the American firefighting heroes who are here, how much they loved our province. And this is what turns people off from politics, is when you got a group of Congress people trying to trivialize and make hay out of a wildfire season where we've lost lives in our province. There's no place for that in politics. If you can't get likes on Instagram from your own skills as a politician, don't bother trying to throw other people under the bus during a state of emergency. Well, I've shaken the hands of American firefighters.
There you go. So, out from his own mouth. And that's what had Tom Tiffany say. Premier Canoe may call me an ambulance chaser, but I'm making sure my constituents don't end up in one because of wildfire smoke. Working together on proactive forest management is how we save lives and prevent future disasters. Inaction only lets crisis grow. Yeah, or working together on fighting climate change might actually be a better solution. Your inaction only lets the crisis grow. And again, I'm making sure my constituents don't end up in an ambulance because of wildfire smoke. Yeah, you don't achieve that by writing a letter to the Canadian ambassador.
I can pretty much guarantee you your constituents won't end up in an ambulance because it's going to be out of network and they can't afford it, number one. Number two, you just cut Medicaid.
Yeah.
So, no, they're not going to end up in an ambulance because it's not financially possible for them to afford it.
So,
The
Tom
number one cause
Tiffany,
of bankruptcy in the United States of America, medical debt, which is a term, medical debt. It's not a term that should exist in the English language in 2025.
Yep.
It should not exist. It shouldn't.
Nope.
There's no reason for it
Nope.
other than greedy people being greedy.
Yep. So, Representative Tom Tiffany, 7th District of Wisconsin, is the one he represents. So, yeah, there you go. Sir, with all the respect you are due, please accept our invitation to run an ultra marathon off the world's shortest pier.
I mean,
Thank you. Come on. It's like they're slapping tariffs on us and doing all this other crap, being complete uncooperative with the world. And then it's like, knock, knock, knock. Hi, Canada neighbor. Could you do something about the smoke? Like this. We'd like to work together on making sure that, our summer isn't disturbed. But yeah, because our summer isn't disturbed by the smoke too.
Yeah, it's like if you could just keep the smoke on your side of the imaginary line.
Listen, we'd be happy to keep our smoke on the side of our imaginary line if you could keep your bullshit on the side of yours.
You keep your guns and your bullshit and your stupid politics and your hateful rhetoric and your Nazi-like Gestapo ways with your ICE, and we'll see what we can do about the smoke.
I was just like, that's it. God, so stupid. All right. So, in the other more realm of stupid, of course, is that as we know, not Prime Minister. Oh my God, Donald Trump announced that he was going to do stuff, and well, uh, again, wasn't very clear on certain things, and then more details came out. So it seems that is it an additional 35% tariff, or is it everything that was already tariffed at 25% is now going to be tariffed at 35? That's sort of one of the questions that doesn't seem to be completely clear. But he already started tackling himself by saying that CUSMA compliant trade is exempt, and well, most of the trade between Canada and the United States is already CUSMA compliant. And it's becoming more so. There's a lot of people who just didn't file the paperwork because it was too much of a burden, but they're doing that now so that they can get the exemption. And then he announced that there were going to be tariffs of 30% for Europe and Mexico, who both of them are in the throes of also negotiating a deal. And then with Brazil, because Brazil is holding their former president, who was dubbed at the time the Trump of the tropics, and did some things that were not too kosher. They were holding him
Bolsonaro.
responsible. Yeah, Bolsonaro. And, they're trying to hold him responsible for what he did right now. Like, he's already been gone to court and been sentenced and banned for running for office for another 5 years and that type of stuff. But there's more action that looks to be taken against him. And I guess while Donald Trump doesn't like the thought of any news coming from anywhere in the world where any leader that espouses ideology similar to his would be held responsible, especially by court of law, for their actions. So with regards to Brazil, he is going to slap them with a 50% tariff. Now, again, like the tourism industry, Brazil is one of the few nations with which the United States actually has the trade surplus. The trade surplus is in the United States' favor with Brazil. So there should be no reason to tariff Brazil in any way. Right? So Brazil imports more from the U.S. than it exports, but that hasn't stopped him from going after it, jeopardizing $100 billion worth of trade in order to help former President Jair Bolsonaro. Quote, "This trial should not be taking place. It's a witch hunt that should end immediately." The trial against Bolsonaro is, for him, well, he's accused of plotting a coup. Oh, maybe that's why Donald's just a little touchy.
A little bit.
Yeah. The trial, Trump indicated he would impose a 50% tariff and that it should probably be more to level the playing field. Not sure how you level the playing field has anything to do with it. Current President Lula da Silva essentially responded with, "Bring it." Quote, "Brazil is a sovereign nation with independent institutions and will not accept any form of tutelage." He stated that the judicial branch will remain independent and not be subject to interference. Quote, "Any measure to increase tariffs unilaterally will be responded to in light of Brazil's law of economic reciprocity. Total trade between the both countries is $92 billion. $49.7 billion of that is U.S. exports to Brazil. That means the U.S. exports greater than $7 billion per year to Brazil that it imports. The top exports to Brazil are machinery, aircraft, and so on, all things that Brazil can get from China. The top imports from the United States into the United States, well, the stuff that the United States imports from Brazil are
Right.
oil, minerals, and iron and steel, things that they can't get they can't get in country, that's for sure, and less are being able to get from neighbors, other countries, because, well, they've all decided that they're redirecting their trade in these things with other nations who are more reliable.
There is I'm going to go with a country related to this because Argentina, which doesn't share a border with Brazil, but they're close, and it's the next most populous nation in South America. There is a new series streaming on I can't remember which platform right now, actually. I can't remember if it's Prime or Netflix. I think it's on Prime, and it's called Menem, I think it is. And it has a very, a gentleman with a hairstyle very similar to the current leader of Argentina.
Okay.
Okay, and it goes into depth and detail about corruption and so on and so forth. And what is amazing to me about this is they were able to produce this in Argentina. Now, this guy's a madman.
Yes.
He is a narcissist. He's a madman. He's a dictator. He's a Trump Jr., Trump wannabe, and Trump wants to be Hitler. I mean, that's no secret. He admired the man. We've all heard that. How they were able to pull this off without it being shut down by that government is pretty ballsy, if you ask me. I intend to watch it over the next few days because I'm like, oh, I want to see this. I mean, I'll have to watch it. I can watch the dubbed version so I can get the nuances, but I'll watch it again in Spanish with the subtitles because I find a lot, sometimes the
intonation.
I don't think they pay the people who dub films a lot of money because there's not a lot of effort put into many of them.
Yeah, I mean, if you're dubbing it, but you're not reading it with the same emotion that the actor's doing it, you kind of change the film.
Yeah,
how you change how it lands.
Well, I often wonder if they've watched the film in the original language, because many of them don't speak the other language.
Right.
I don't think they watch it in the original language. I think they just watch it and do it as they're going, and reading the lines. And there's probably little notes in the script for them to say. I'm like, maybe you should watch the film in its original language with subtitles and then go do the dub. Maybe the budget doesn't allow for that. I don't know. But
yeah.
I'll dub films.
Yeah, really. I'd be happy to watch the film before.
Well, I think, like you say, so much is lost in the dub.
Yeah, I remember the first time I noticed that is I was in Trois-Rivières and I went to watch Ghostbusters in French. I'd already seen it in English. But I went to see it in French, and there was the joke about, yes, I can confirm he is a dick, or something like that. And
this man has no dick.
Yeah, this man has no dick. And I was I was waiting for that line, and in French, and it was clearly dubbed in European French, and the translation was written, and it's like, I'm listening to it, and it's like,
what?
That's not fun. Like, that was one of the funniest lines of the movie, and it's like there's nobody laughing in the audience and whatnot and anything like that's just it's like, yeah, you missed that one.
Yeah,
maybe they were rolling in the aisles in Belgium and in France with that expression, but it wasn't an expression that I had ever heard of before. And I was just like, oh, damn.
Well, I mean, I've always
been so good in English.
I've always been of the opinion that if you're going to dub a film, you should watch the whole thing in its original language, and then the actor that you're dubbing, try and emulate them.
Yeah.
Don't put your own spin on it. Try and emulate that actor so that it actually comes across that way. But that's me.
Because it makes the words and the image sync up.
Yeah,
indeed.
Think,
So anyway, back to the trade stuff.
Sorry, tangent.
That's okay. According to the BBC, Jude Sheeran, the European Union and Mexico have expressed disappointment at U.S. President Donald Trump's threat to impose 30% tariffs on their imports from August 1st. Mexico criticized what it called Trump's unfair deal and insisted its sovereignty was non-negotiable, while the EU's chief Ursula von der Leyen threatened to take proportionate countermeasures if needed. Both said they wanted to keep negotiating with the United States, and von der Leyen, in sort of connected news, was facing a non-confidence vote, and she survived that. But it seems that as the chief of the EU, a non-confidence vote is actually a rather rare thing, but she did survive it. Trump has warned he will impose even higher import taxes if either of the U.S. trading partners decide to retaliate. So again, they received, it was basically the same letter we received, but like the reasons for things changed and the amount of the tariffs changed. But it was another thing. It's a great honor for me to send you this letter because our trade stuff, and we've decided to let you trade with us still, despite the fact that you're this and that, and you do this and you do that and whatever. So we're all receiving foreign letters essentially. And all of them have, so please lie back and take it. Well, not so much a please, just lie back and take it in it. Trump has warned he will impose even higher import taxes if either the U.S. trading partners decide to retaliate. This week, Trump also announced new tariffs on goods from Japan, South Korea, Canada, and Brazil for next month. So Not well. Number one, it's a little sad because we're not special. It wasn't a letter written just for us. We're not the only ones being singled out. So that's I thought after all this time that we were special,
Hmm.
but we're just one among many. And this just confirms that Trump is too lazy, just too damn lazy to do the work of negotiating these trade deals. Now, there's something that happened over the course of the weekend, and I do not like to give this person any particular profile. It's sort of like Brian Lilly. I don't like it, but every now and then they say something that we absolutely have to deal with in a certain way. Well, maybe not absolutely have to, but let me put it. It presented an opportunity for a media literacy moment and a political literacy moment. So I decided to take advantage of it. But it is the one of the Poilievre influencers, one of the ones that he gave a call to, and known to people on the web who like to roll their eyes as Mario.
Okay.
Mario, his last name starts with a Z. I can't remember off the top of my head, and I don't really care because whatever comes out of his mouth is just downloaded from the central brain. But well, they keep on saying that they're free thinkers and that all their thoughts expressed are their own, but it's not true. It's not true because they all say the same damn things in the same damn way.
Mhm.
And well, this person here decided to write because I'm sure they have vast experience in international trade negotiation. Carney made a massive mistake. Oh, sorry. Was that bitchy? Sorry.
That's fine. It's fine.
Carney made a massive mistake, and it all has to do with timing. We're going to be paying for it. He started negotiating way too early and making deals too early with Europe and publicly announcing them. He did things in a reverse order. The first thing he should have done is signed a deal with Donald Trump. By doing so, the tariffs are set, deals are negotiated. Then you launch the counter US deals, not tariffs, where you will no longer be buying US products when it comes to defense spending. He and the EU should and could have done this afterwards. It will likely cost us, as Trump and his administration will not like this at all. Trump will see it as an indirect attack on US companies. This, kits and cubs, is some nuclear grade copium. Some people have to fabricate the reality in which they would prefer to exist because they simply do not have the skills to live in a world where they have to accept reality as it is. So let's explore this little text and see why it is pure bovine fecal matter and fantasy. First of all, based on this guy's account's history, the opening statement about Prime Minister Carney made a massive mistake, is merely that which the account holder needs / wants / wishes to be true for their existence online to have worth and to be consistent with all its previous statements about the Prime Minister in the eyes of the audience this account holder has cultivated. The statement that, quote, it all has to do with timing, supposes a reality that somewhere that exists in which the order in which deals were struck would be in any way relevant to the behavior of IQ 47. Right? Based on what we know to be true of him, IQ 47, this is laughable on its face as a premise. The statement that, quote, the first thing he should have done is signed a deal with Donald Trump presupposes the government of Canada didn't already do that during IQ 47's first term. We already did sign the deal with him first.
Yeah.
IQ 47 unilaterally went back on the terms of that deal, invalidating the worth of his word. But this guy seems to still live in some fantasy land that if we just signed a deal first, that the word would be more respected this time. A reality that does not exist. And this is absolutely folly because we learned there's no such thing as set tariffs with IQ 47. Buying less from the U.S. increases the trade deficit, and the account holder appears to forget that a trade deficit in our favor is allegedly what prompted IQ 47's destructive behavior. in the first place. Then, so as a result of this, therefore logically, the timing of us making moves to shift trade away from the United States is utterly irrelevant, as the matter in question is not whether we shift trade away. No, sorry, not when we shift trade away, but whether we shift trade away. So when he says at the end, it will likely cost us, as Trump and his administration will not like this at all. This guy seems to live in a world where he believes that if we signed the deal first and then made deals with other nations that would move our trade away from the United States, that Trump would like it more then. Yeah, no makey sensey, right? Now, in addition to the point about there being no such thing as set tariffs, with his alleged deal with Vietnam. Remember that one? He said he
Yeah.
was going to get 90 deals in 90 days. And first he had the deal with the UK. That wasn't really a deal, but concepts of a deal. And then he announced, hey, now we got one with Vietnam. Well, over the course of the weekend or on Friday at some point, the government of Vietnam, I guess, made that deal suspecting that there could be some kind of first mover advantage and made concessions believing that it had an agreement for tariffs set at 11%. So the government of Vietnam, who didn't really have much tariffs then, agreed to 11% tariffs and made concessions in order to have the luxury of having 11% tariffs imposed upon them. Well, according to some news reports, uh, well, Donald Trump then decided to step in. And that sent shockwaves through Vietnam because their negotiators had not, in fact, agreed to the 20% rate they believed the tariff would be, around 11%, according to 4 people. So Trump just unhinged his jaw and said, yes, the tariff with the Vietnam is now going to be 20%, after they had just signed a deal weeks ago saying, well, that was going to be 11%, according to Trump. Anyway, they signed a deal. Trump disregarded that figure in his phone call with Vietnamese Secretary General Lam, who had not been part of the initial tariff negotiations, and instead declared the U.S. would impose a tariff nearly twice as high. Some on the U.S. side were surprised too, including outside groups who had been tracking the talks, according to one Washington-based lobbyist who works with Vietnam and other Asian governments. Quote, Trump sandbagged everybody, said the lobbyist. They described the Vietnamese government's reaction as surprise, as well as disappointment and anger. Then, so that move
Mhm.
very strongly suggests that, contrary to the predictably negative framing offered by the owner of this account, this Mario guy, that PM Carney actually made the wiser decision by opting to not be among the first to set a tariff and to make concessions to get it, and that he was also wise to push back our deadline from July 21st to August 1st. Because since all these new tariffs are coming into effect August 1st and we wanted a deal or that outline by the 21st, well, that puts us in a situation again of making that deal and being the first to make concessions before we find out what the rest of the world gets. And we decided that we're not going to do that. So we've moved our date back to August 1st as well. Now, there's another section of this article that says Vietnam has watched as Trump this week proposed new tariff rates on other Asian countries, including an identical 20% rate on the Philippines to go into effect on August 1st without any of the concessions or rules about where goods originate that Vietnam is prepared to agree to. Huh.
Hmm.
Interesting. So Vietnam went first, signed a deal, said 11. Trump in a phone call then just sandbagged them, said 20, and said, hey, Philippines, by the way, you're getting 22. And then Vietnam's going, but wait a minute, we made concessions and Philippines didn't. So thus confirming that there is no first mover advantage. So all these conservatives that you keep on saying, oh, well, they were supposed to have a deal by the G7. No, nobody said we were supposed to have a deal.
No.
We just said that the G7 could be an opportunity to present that there was a deal, given that it was a high media moment. Like this, but we said before the G7, even on our show, don't be expecting when it's probably not going to come. Right? And then it was supposed to be Canada Day, and that was supposed to be this, and that was supposed to be that. Gee, Carney sure seems to have elbows down. It's like, no, Carney realizes that there is no such thing as a first mover advantage. So why go first? And we've just got confirmation that he's right. Look at Vietnam. Look at the Philippines.
Yeah.
Same tariff rate. Only one of them made concessions. Vietnam sitting there going, why the hell did we make concessions then? Right? Finally, for all the dire predictions of adverse cost to us, The account does not even attempt, this is Mario again, does not even attempt to proactively suggest or assess what those costs might be. So when he says, Canada will pay dearly for this, oh my God, we're going to pay. No attempt. How will we pay? How much will it cost? How do you know we will pay? He doesn't know. He's not in the room. It's not like he sat down and did the math. So
Doesn't know how to
for
do math.
yeah, so for those of us who are actual critical and logical thinkers, those types of statements should be taken as a red flag. It strikes more as an appeal to emotion, the
Well,
emotion being fear, which is a form of sophistry.
he's going to carry on about how his tariffs have brought in $100 billion in additional funds to the United States coffers, to the U.S. government coffers. But what he fails to mention or acknowledge or realize is that it's the American people that paid that.
And that's less money circulating in the economy to actually buy
Correct.
the goods to make the economy work.
Correct. So you're paying for these. American public is paying for the tariffs. The American government gets the money, and they're not putting it into the programs that so desperately need it because they keep cutting those programs.
So when the guy's saying that we're going to pay, it's going to cost us dearly, and doesn't do the math, right? But instead of trying to persuade us with facts and numbers and data, just goes to appeal to our emotions. It's going to cost us. Be afraid. Surrender. Capitulate now. Carney did such a terrible thing. You got to hate him. You got to hate him. He's terrible. Well, to find out whether or not it would actually cost us, well, one would have to actually be able to assess the potential gain from not having been first to sacrifice too much for no gain, as did Vietnam, versus the cost to us for having made other deals first, minus the value of those actually set deals. But I guess that's too much work for Mr. Mario here.
Well,
So there isn't even a concept of an attempt to make that calculation, yet this person is able to confidently and smugly say that it will cost us. So the only conclusion that you can get from this post is that everything about it, premises, reasoning, and conclusion, all are utter bunk, pulled from one's arse to advance the negative narrative for which this account is known in the first place. Listen, you don't know if Carney caved because you weren't in the room.
Yeah.
You don't know if we got nothing for the digital services tax because you weren't in the room. The only thing we know, the only thing that's in the public domain, is that White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt bellied up to a microphone and said that Canada and Carney caved. That's the only data point, because you didn't hear it from anybody on our side, because again, we have some of the best trade negotiators around the world, and they know when to keep their mouths shut. So, in a war, and let's not kid ourselves, a trade war is indeed a war. The first casualty is truth. Number two, as we keep on repeating, when a certain side in a war makes a first public statement to set the narrative, that narrative is usually the message that they want their base to hear first and run with, because they're going to compare everything that they hear afterwards to that statement.
Right.
That becomes the statement against everything else is challenged. Right? Trump caved, as Carney caved, was the statement by the White House. Do you really want to take that as the data point you are going to run with and go all across the country smugly and confidently making conclusions and statements about what's to come next? The word of the White House. You're literally, if you're doing that, you're literally swallowing the word of Miss Leavitt whole and claiming that it is a fact. And you have no way of knowing that, because you were not in the room, and nobody from the Canadian side is talking, and nobody has corroborated. There's no independent source that has verified this to be true. You don't know if we didn't get something in exchange. We don't even know if it is real that the reason that Trump called off those negotiations had anything to do with the digital services tax. That's just what he said.
You do need to remember, of course, folks, that, and I'm still not happy with how this looks. I don't like the fact that they called off the tax. I don't like it. I don't like the fact that he did it, and he did it publicly, and it looks like he acquiesced to Trump's demands. But as Todd Maffin reminded us, and as many other people have reminded us, Trump needs to look like he's winning at all times. So, and I spoke to a few people about this, and I said, no, I'm not happy about it either. However, if he gives Trump that tiny little win, what did we gain on the other side of that deal? Because there's no way he was just going to bend the knee. It looks like he bent the knee. It looks like he put his elbows down. But as far as I'm concerned, and I think many other are concerned, we don't know what really took place, number one. And number two, we also have to pay attention to the fact that Mark Carney is a master negotiator, number one. Number two, Trump always has to look like he's won something. His ego needs to look like he's won, like he's the super negotiator that he likes to tell everybody he is, when we know he's not.
No, not at all.
It really, again, on the surface, I don't like it. The optics, I do not care for. In the end, it will be.
Well, listen.
Sure.
You can take the word of all the things that has come from the U.S. side of the border and run with it and say it's true.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can expand your mind and not be limited. Because maybe the reason Trump left that room and got so mad is because he was getting nowhere on supply management and decided to say, well, it's the digital services tax that caused the problem and I'm walking away.
Yeah.
So, and then Mark, so that means that we would have gotten something. What if the digital service tax, because it's not a tax, that Mark Carney brought into an effect? So maybe he's not attached to it. Maybe Mark Carney says, hey, at some point during this negotiating, Trump is going to do something, pull some type of stunt. So let's have something that we hold on the table as long as possible that we're willing to sacrifice. So when that happens, we can say, hey, have a bone, go tell everybody you've won, and let's get back to regularly scheduled stuff. We don't even know whether or not, as a fact, we don't know because there's only one side saying so, is that rescinding the digital services tax is what got the talks started again. There's an appearance of that because the order in which things happened and statements that one side has made to the public, but we don't even know that as a fact.
Mm-hmm.
This whole tantrum from Trump could have just been because it's becoming very clear that he was not going to get his 90 deals in 90 days, and therefore, and the taco stuff, and he needs to look tough. So I'm walking away from this deal. I'm canceling all negotiations. We're going to tell you like this, and somebody's okay, fine. Because, but it could just as well as somebody from his inside said, you can't do that because if you do that, this is going to happen to the stock market, and you're going to be damn screwed. This is okay. The deal's back on, but I'm going to say it's because he rescinded. We don't know.
No, we don't.
If we're only dealing with the things that are actually in the public domain that we know for sure that he walked away for some reason. He alleges the reason is the digital services tax, but we don't know that. Because it is alleged that we caved, but we don't know that. It's alleged that we got nothing in exchange for the digital services tax. Rescission, we don't know that. It's alleged that having done that is what got the trade talks going again. We don't know that.
No, we don't.
For a fact. If you actually sit down and you think like, okay, what has been independently verified by a credible source in all of these statements? None of them have. It could be an entirely different thing going on, and there are so many other plausible and possible opportunities. So if you are running with that particular narrative and making confident and smug statements of fact, like they are facts that are known to you, to me, that is a red flag. My first question is, what's your narrative? What's your objective? And who benefits from your version of the story being the one that dominates? We don't know. And that's a really important thing with critical thinking.
Mhm.
It's like you really have to take the time to sift through what are the things that we actually know for a fact that exist in the public domain and what do we not. Yes. And then when you look at the narrative that's going through, what are the blanks in the narrative that are being filled in order for that narrative? And then look at what has been used to fill in those blanks and ask, for whose benefit is that? And who does that help?
Mm.
And what could be the possible motive for having filled in the blanks with those statements to create that narrative? And it's always the same cast of characters that keep on filling those blanks with things that paint Canada or the Prime Minister in the most negative light possible. It's always the same bunch of characters.
Of course it is.
So again, if you try not to go crazy during this period and try not to go up and down emotionally, take a step back. Okay, this thing that has been stated as a fact, is it actually a fact? Or is it something that the person that's telling you, hey, this is a fact, wants you to buy is a fact? And what's the reason for that? It's a lot of work. It's exhausting. I'll give it to you. I think most people would rather not do the work because you got too much other stuff going on. But if you're going to take a confident position that we're failing, or that Carney is just not up to the task or over his head and all that kind of stuff, you might want something more than just Carolyn Levitt's say so, or Pierre Poilievre influencers say so.
Look, how many times do we have to eat this dead horse that they will tell you what they want you to hear and then do what they want to do? I don't know how many times over the course of this past weekend I've seen Pierre Poilievre's voting record posted online by hundreds of people saying, oh, once again, he's blaming everybody but himself for his loss. Right?
I'm glad you said that because that's where we're going next.
He's blaming everybody else for his loss.
Mm-hmm.
He says, because I was too honest in saying I was going to cut federal government jobs. No, you abandon your constituency.
And a couple of years ago, I think January or February 2022, I think it was, you abandoned everybody in the city of Ottawa by becoming Skippy the Dishes.
Mm-hmm. Delivering coffee and donuts to the convoy crew. Come on.
Listen, we did a show pretty much every day except weekends of that election period.
Mm-hmm.
And on not one of our episodes did we talk for more than 5 minutes, if at all, about your pledge to want to cut the public service.
Yeah.
It was hardly a dominant vector of conversation during the election.
We knew Mark Carney was going to cut the public service. And he won in a landslide in his constituency, his riding.
Yeah.
Girl. And he's already started the cuts.
Yeah. So it's like, I'm going to be honest. It's because I was honest about wanting to. Okay, girl, number one, honest is not a word we associate with you in the first place. Ever.
Never.
Right? There's a reason why the little saying, you can't spell Poilievre without lie, circulated.
Look, the only time he's honest is when he says, well, I've probably got some facts misconstrued, although he's never said that. But if he did, that would be honest.
Yeah. So, girl, you lost because you abandoned your constituents, and you lost because you sacrificed the residents of the city of Ottawa. And I'm sure there are plenty of constituents in Carleton that were not able to get to work or to a doctor appointment or to something of the sort because of things you directly did, because on the advice of Candace Sheets Bergen at the time, let Trudeau wear it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And again, remember, they were protesting the wrong government in the wrong city.
Yes. He was launching his bid for prime minister.
Yeah. Well, there were
flags
made. Pierre Poilievre for PM. And once again, I'm going to have to say this for the rest of my life until we can get enough people to understand how civics work. We do not, nor have we ever, in the history of this country, elected a prime minister. It's not a position you run for. It's not how the system works. We elect a parliament. And the party that has the most votes can form government, and the leader of that party can assume the position of prime minister. But they can always defer to their deputy leader. They don't have to take the job.
Yeah. So, I mean, Poilievre is still living, trying to sell a narrative. You know, he's still trying to push the shiniest silver medal ever. And he didn't lose because it was his fault. He didn't lose because of anything terrible he did. He lost because he was too honest. Yeah.
Yeah.
I figured the pause to let that settle.
Pull this leg and it plays Jingle Bells. Come on, man. Come on.
Come on. God, this guy.
Well, so yesterday morning I was out with Lola on a nice Sunday morning walk before it got exceedingly hot. And I got a message from Mademoiselle Fox saying, Skippy's on CBC right now being interviewed. And I'm like, I'll check that out later. I'm on a nice walk with Lola right now. I don't want to ruin it by what she goes, understood.
Yeah.
He was on Global and he was on CBC yesterday.
Yeah, with Catherine Cullen.
Yeah.
On CBC. And it was just like, come on, man. Now,
why is he getting airtime? He's a private citizen. They're like, he's a leader of the opposition. Technically, he doesn't have a seat. So no, that
yeah,
currently that's Andrew Scheer's job.
Yeah, he's the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada only. I mean, that is reason enough to be given airtime.
I guess so.
But
sure. But any other leader would have stepped down after losing their own riding that they've held for 20 years.
Yes. Well, it seems to become a thing, right? Bonnie Crombie didn't do it either.
Yeah.
She didn't hold the riding for 20 years. She just didn't win her seat.
She didn't win her seat. I thought she should have stepped down.
Me too.
I mean,
we actually
stepped down. He did the right thing.
Yeah.
He won his seat though, didn't he?
Jagmeet Singh?
Yeah.
No, he didn't.
Oh, he didn't win his seat. Okay.
No, he didn't. No.
Okay.
No, he didn't.
I knew he was going to step down no matter what because it was pretty obvious they weren't going. They were going to lose that election badly.
On that front with Bonnie Crombie, by the way, we'll soon be having an interview brought to you with Nathaniel Arfin, who is leading the New Leaf Liberals push in Ontario to talk about that more. But we did get a confirmation. We're just trying to set a time there.
We have. Oh, never mind. I was going to say we have a few other people we're going to be talking to in the near future, but we'll just leave that for the future.
Yeah. So while Poilievre is trying, to polish a turd, essentially, the Prime Minister had declared that he was a little bit on vacation.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And then we got a whole bunch of people doing the thing that usually happens because for some reason Conservatives are really, really, really obsessed when the Prime Minister of Canada happens to not be a Conservative, when they take a vacation.
Well, they went on and on and on. Parliament is not releasing where he is. And then if you read through the story, it says he's staying in the Ottawa area. Okay, so we didn't give you the address of the place he was staying at.
Yes, and that made Kian very sad.
Was he in Europe, though, last week?
The week before, yes, I believe so, yes. But I'm sure that made Kian very, very, very sad.
Because he couldn't fly. Well, this is why they did that.
Right.
This is why they did it.
Yeah. That he didn't have the precise address. Now, Kits and Cubs, we know that Kian's daddy, his literal daddy, got elected to the House of Commons. Well, son like father.
Prime Minister needs to cancel his vacation and get back to work before he causes a recession or worse. You can't run a country on banking hours, Mark. From Juno News.
Yes. Because of the Trump decided to unhinge his jaw and write a letter. So therefore, we must stop everything. Because in a country like Canada, developed nation, G7, OECD nation, with one of the most professional public services in the world. There is an entire team
And
of
by the
people.
way, we are the most educated country in the world.
Yes.
64% of Canadians have a post-secondary education.
Yeah.
It's the
Because
highest in the world.
within a cabinet and an ambassador and the best trade negotiators in the world, there isn't anybody else that could be holding down the fort when Trump decides to lose his mind in public, but the prime minister. Like the prime minister himself being on vacation, that's what will cause us to go into a recession or worse.
And look,
There's
folks,
nobody else.
I do recognize that education does not necessarily translate into intelligence. I recognize
But
that.
it helps.
But it helps. Just wanted to point out that we're the most educated country on earth.
Yeah. So with all of that.
And just one more footnote to that. Keep in mind that post-secondary education in this country is not free.
Nope.
And yet we're still the most educated country on earth. Now, could you imagine how high that number would be if post-secondary education was provided by the state?
Right. If you had the grades, you could go get the course.
Take the course, and the government will give you a monthly stipend, a universal basic income, if you will, so that you can pay your rent, buy food, and pay for your books, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep.
How interesting if that was the thing. Anyway, sorry, I didn't.
Oh, no worries. So the prime minister did announce that he would be coming back and that he would be scheduling a meeting, which is slated, I should say, to take place tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken, with all essentially all the premiers, I believe. So that's the first one. And that will take place tomorrow, if I am not mistaken. Now, for some reason, Doug Ford was all over social media trying to take credit for that meeting having been called, which is really, really, really interesting. Because basically, Captain Canada allegedly came up to a mic and said, in light of the 35% tariffs, we need a plan. And that was his contribution. We need a plan. The guy who ran early on the premise of protecting Ontario, concept of protecting Ontario, when Trump says now it's going to be 35%, is to run to a mic and say, somebody, we need a plan. Look at me. It's because of me this meeting has been called. Girl, come on. Unbelievable, this guy. So yeah, there will be a meeting on Tuesday with the premiers, all the kind of stuff. There will also be a meeting, if I am not mistaken, on Thursday as well, and that will be the first of a series of meetings. I think there will be 3 with Indigenous Canadians with regard to C5. You'll remember that the Prime Minister had stated that he would have some meetings with First Nations, with Inuit, and with Métis groups, 3 individual all-day sessions, which hopefully, which, if we're being honest, is damage control, because they weren't included enough in the formulation of C5, and Prime Minister really wants to let them know that indeed, he is serious about this. Again, I'm skeptic as to how just a one-day intensive meeting and then everybody goes out and works on their own stuff will be enough or will suffice to calm concerns with regard to that. But we'll see what that happens, how that works. And then there is a third meeting for some reason off the top of my head that I cannot remember, and I knew before the show, and I'm so sorry. But he does have a series, I think it is, of 3 big meetings scheduled this week, and I'm sure I'm going to find it in my notes at some point what the third one is. But all of these meetings have to do with coordinating a response to the trade issue and making sure that what he plans to do with regard to C5 can progress with as minimal speed bumps as possible. So I know that meeting with First Nations scheduled for Thursday had been scheduled for a while. So this vacation that he allegedly took was probably only going to be about a week
Maximum.
anyway. And you had these people losing their minds in public.
Well, and let's not forget that even when the PM is on vacation.
Exactly. Prime Minister is always a 24/7 on-call job.
It's not like you and I taking a vacation.
Right.
Call comes in, he answers it. Right? Now, would he be the first recipient of that call? No. One of the aides, somebody in his office, would field the call and go, yeah, okay, no problem. Then they go and get him. You're working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week when you're the PM. You are always on call, even on vacation.
Right. So
you're never not working.
Exactly. The third meeting, I just found it in my notes. It's not for this week, it's next week. So on Tuesday, hybrid meetings with this front bench team with the focus on ongoing negotiations between our two countries. Then provincial and territorial premiers are going to meet in Muskoka next week. So that's when he's going to meet with them. But I'm sure there's been lots of phone calls. And between the Tuesday meeting with the hybrid meeting with the front bench team and the meeting next week with the provincial and territorial premiers on Thursday, then it will be the closed-door huddle with First Nations chiefs and community leaders to discuss his government's controversial pitch to accelerate the approval of major projects designated as being in the national interest. No additional details on that meeting had been released as of Sunday morning, but according to a draft agenda provided to APTN News, it's slated to begin with a half-day session on Wednesday afternoon that will include remarks from ministers, although as per APTN, quote, does not say which ministers, with a 50-minute technical briefing about the new law to follow. Then chiefs will have 1 hour from 3:45 to 4:45 to ask questions. The workday is set to wrap up at 5 p.m. after closing ceremonies. And here's another reason why I'm a little skeptical. First of all, I would hope, which ministers? So that's not going to be the premier, so that's cool there, because if it was the premiers, then I would be very, 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 very cautious about scheduling Doug Ford or Daniel Smith at the particular moment.
Oh,
given
yes.
that they don't seem to care much about drinking water on reserve. That probably will not be well received. But I'm looking at this whole thing, the half-day session on Wednesday, yes, that will include Mark Christmas, so there'll be some working thing, and then 1 hour. Okay, 643 individual communities from coast to coast to coast. 1 hour to ask questions.
I don't think that's enough time.
At some point, we might have to start to accept that reconciliation, if we're going to do this in a meaningful way, is more than a half working day session, part of it taken up by remarks from ministers, and then 1 hour to ask questions when we're dealing with 643 different communities and maybe 400 and something different nations. The premiers are going to get a full day. Hundreds of other nations are going to get 1 hour to ask questions. If we're truly dealing nation to nation, you might want to schedule a little more time.
I think so. I'm going to have to step out in a moment because I've got a very anxious puppy dog at my feet. I just wanted to read something to you here that came across my feed from David Coletto, who has blocked me for some reason. Maybe I said something he didn't like. I don't know. But I can still read because, the blocking on Twitter is meaningless now. But he says, is Canada finally getting its own DARPA? Buried in the 2025 liberal platform is a bold idea, the creation of the, pay attention now, Bureau of Research, Engineering, and Advanced Leadership in Science, or Borealis.
Yes, we've talked about that, yes.
So it's kind of interesting. This is DARPA's I can't remember what basically DARPA created the internet. The network was built and they were able to use that, and the internet was built around that. The World Wide Web was created by Tim Berners-Lee, of course, back in the early 90s, but the network was already in place and built by DARPA. So, yeah.
DARPA is the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency.
I knew it, but I just couldn't come up with it for some reason. I was blanking.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Borealis. And on that front, too, recently, the government of Canada announced money because this is something that we had talked about on the show with regard to science and technology and innovation and research, right? Because we heard some stories about academics from other nations, particularly from the United States, potentially wanting to come to Canada and looking for other opportunities because, Trump is attacking universities. And on July 9th, this happened. It got a little bit of coverage, but not a lot. Mélanie Joly, who's the Minister of Industry and Minister responsible for the Canadian Economic Development for Quebec regions, and the Honourable Marjorie Michel, who's the Minister of Health, announced over $1.3 billion of funding to support over 9,700 researchers and research projects across Canada. The funding is distributed through several programs, so $365.6 million to create 4,761 scholarships and fellowship recipients through the Canadian Institutes of Health Research, the Natural Sciences and Engineering Research Council of Canada, and the Social Sciences and Humanity Research Council of Canada. So NSERC, which is the National Sciences and Engineering Research Council of Canada, will get $589 million to 2,950 awardees through the Discovery Research Program. Then the College and Community Innovation Program will give another $29.8 million to 51 recipients. The CREATE grants will get another $26.4 million to 16 recipients. And then there's similar things for social sciences and research. And then there's in general for just research in health. And then there are other things like the Vanier Canada graduate scholarships and the Banting postdoctoral fellowships that also received a boost in funding. But yes, it got very little coverage, but $1.3 billion to support funding for more scientific research and innovation, and to capitalize on the brain drain from other places and to create a brain gain for us, which if that research, even if 10% of those research projects result in something, additional patents, intellectual property, all that kind of stuff that is based in Canada, that's going to be a big boom for the economy. So one of the first few domestic policies coming up. Now, there's a lot of things domestic. I have to be fair, because when I'm saying that the Prime Minister is not particularly visible on domestic policy, he hasn't been all that much. But that doesn't mean that the other ministers and whatnot haven't been going across the country and making these small announcements.
Right.
But they're not getting the coverage that they need. But specifically on the issue, when the Prime Minister said, to the workers in the industries, we will have your back, because there still haven't been any announced changes to the EI system. And there still isn't a CERB type program or a workers compensating companies for workers' salaries to try to do something to keep them on the job, or if they're just reduced to one shift or that type of stuff. There hasn't been anything like that that's been announced yet.
Well, like I said at the top of the show, my EI is done. I've got no money coming in. Now I start a new job next Monday, but I don't get any money until the 31st. So it's like, some bills are just going to have to wait. I don't have a choice there. There's
Yep.
no money coming in. So, yeah, I'd like to see those programs created and started sooner, and the sooner the better. I'm
Now,
not
some of
alone.
them,
There's a lot of Canadians going through this right now.
now some of this requires legislation,
hmm
which is not going to happen. So that again, we're talking about a decent amount of time for people to have to wait to know what is going to happen.
Yeah, because he talked about this back in January, February.
Exactly.
It's been
So
7 months. Come on, man.
Yeah.
Do something, please.
Yeah.
Like, I realize the House isn't sitting, but can we put a temporary program in the meantime as a stopgap measure? Because my gap is fully stopped.
Or even just announce what it is that would be planned in legislation so people know that they actually have something to hope for.
Yeah. Now it's time for a UBI, period. And every time I mention this to a friend of mine, he goes, "But you can't give people money for nothing. They won't work." And I'm like, that is simply not true. I said, you know what? There is going to be a percentage of the population that is unemployable. There's always a percentage that cannot work. It's a very small percentage. Then there's another percentage that will refuse to work. But it's very, very small. Turns out that when you give people money to cover all their basic needs, they actually start to pursue things and start their own businesses or go back to school or have the ability to choose a better job that pays better. One of the issues of wage stagnation is because the workforce has more people in it now than ever before. And calling for equal wages for men and women stagnated the wages increasing for everybody across the board. Why do you think CEOs earn 1,400% more today than they did 50 years ago?
Yep.
There's more people in the workforce. So let's just pay them less because you'll be lucky if you can get a job. This is how our overlords, our oligopoly, has treated us for the last 50 years. Well, I'd say since Reagan, so the last 45, when the trickle-down effect started and the end of marginal tax rates ended. And anyway, I could go on for a long time. We'll have that conversation another day. I do have to go because my doggy is really desperate to get out. So,
all right, my friend.
I'll take my leave. Thanks for joining us, folks. I'll have more grizzly growls coming up soon. I got to go. Take care.
All right, my friend. All right. Before we go, one last little thing that happened because Pierre Poilievre tried to stunt once more because the ethics commissioner has done his job and released what he found after Prime Minister Carney submitted all of his information way earlier than he needed to for the ethics commissioner to determine where his potential conflicts would be and what types of conflict screens would be needed. This is according to that liberal rag, the National Post, because just for shits and giggles, Christopher writes, Prime Minister Mark Carney will have to recuse himself from any discussions directly involving Brookfield Asset Management, payment processing giant Stripe, and of companies owned or controlled by them as part of an extensive conflict of interest screen. In a disclosure posted Friday afternoon on the Ethics Commissioner's website, Carney said he had agreed with the Watchdog's office to set up a conflict of interest screen between himself and Brookfield Asset Management, Brookfield Corporation, Strike Incorporated, and any of the 100 other companies owned or controlled by them at the time he set up a blind trust to oversee his assets. Before jumping into politics, Carney was chairman of Brookfield Asset Management, which has US $1 trillion in assets under management, and has also helped lead efforts to raise capital for two major Brookfield clean energy funds. He was also on Stripe's board of directors. Quote, "This screen will prevent me from giving preferential treatment to any of the companies while I exercise my official powers, duties, and functions as a reporting public office holder. The screen means that Carney cannot be involved in any official matters or decision-making processes that would further either his or the interests of the 103 companies, many of which operate in the renewable energy and real estate sectors." Quote, "That's the largest scope I've ever heard of," commented Ian Stedman, a government ethics specialist who previously worked for Ontario's Integrity Commissioner. Quote, "I think that they're going to have to get creative to make administration of this screen efficient," adds Stedman, now an associate professor at York University. The screen will be administered by Carney's Chief of Staff, Marc-André Blanchard, and Clerk of the Privy Council, Michael Sabia, respectively. If he is made aware that a matter being discussed with him involves his ethics screen, he must remove himself from the room and make a public declaration of recusal. But the Prime Minister isn't barred from all discussions that may impact those companies. Carney's screen contains a caveat where he can participate in discussions or decisions on matters that broadly affect any of the 103 companies if they are part of a larger group, unless those interests are disproportionate to the other members of the class. It was not immediately clear what represents a disproportionate interest. Stedman said that will be a key question for both administrators of Carney's screen. The ethics screen risks posing significant implementation challenges, if only because of the sheer scope of the Prime Minister's responsibilities combined with a large number of companies to be screened. Adding to the complexity is that Carney has repeatedly promised to transform Canada into conventional and clean energy superpower. Stedman said this is the first time the ethics commissioner will have to police such a broad ethics screen for the highest-ranking elected official whose hand touches nearly all facets of government. That means there will likely need to be a fair amount of self-policing from Carney regarding any potential conflicts and files brought to him. Quote, "This is going to be a new challenge for this institution to monitor in a way that ensures public confidence. Someone in this position with this robust of a portfolio." Again, this is some interesting framing by the National Post here. But there's also, I think, a larger sort of overall big fund that he may be invested in, similar to what Pierre was invested in, that has a whole bunch of stuff in many other little tiny companies. But it's like this sort of basket of things, which includes, it's not just Brookfield stuff. It could be there's like Airbnb, Amazon, American Express, Apple, BlackRock, Coca-Cola, Costco, DoorDash, Lockheed Martin, Lululemon, Moderna, Netflix, Palantir Technologies, Pfizer, Uber. So it's basically, some of the, a lot of the biggest companies that are out there. Now, with regard to this specifically, Pierre Poilievre tried to stunt and put out a tweet that said, "Prime Minister Carney should have to sell all of his holdings and hand the cash to a trustee to have it invested in a truly blind trust so he doesn't know what he holds. Otherwise, he will always know how political decisions can affect his personal wealth." This is a guy who hasn't disclosed his own holdings to the ethics commissioner. And this from a guy who still hasn't that for a security clearance because he lives in fear of what it is that may be found out about him if he does that. Gary Mason, who is a columnist with the Globe and Mail, stated, "Way to attract highly successful people to run for office, tell them that they have to sell all of the assets they've spent a lifetime accumulating and hand the cash they make to a third party for safekeeping." Who wouldn't jump at that offer? It's an offer that Pierre Poilievre himself would not accept because he hasn't even attempted to live up to the standard that he demands of others here. According to the CBC, it says here that according to the Conflict of Interest Act, Carney didn't have to divest his assets until 120 days after becoming prime minister. The rules are meant to prevent office holders from making decisions that might benefit themselves. Of course, Prime Minister Carney had put his assets into a blind trust shortly after winning the Liberal leadership, but before being sworn in as prime minister. So he did it way before he even needed to, and still Poilievre kept on trying to claim that there's some type of underhanded thing that the prime minister is, then candidate, now prime minister, was trying to do. This here has to do, and I have to make it very, very clear, that when Pierre Poilievre comes out and say things like the prime minister was trying to hide something, or, gee, look at all these screens. No wonder he was trying to hide stuff. Let's again remind everyone, he didn't try to hide stuff. He followed the established process earlier than he needed to. Yes. And now the process has run its course. And now we are finding out. And the whole reason that Poilievre is doing this, stomping his little foot and trying to make a deal out of this, is because Poilievre was trying to supplant himself as the ethics commissioner, wanted all of that information public so he could tell you, Canadians, how corrupt the prime minister was and what all his conflicts were, and get you to run with that. So Pierre, right now, this whole tantrum is purely performative, and it's him being upset that the ethics commissioner was allowed to do his job according to the processes that had been established and agreed to by everyone. Pierre wanted to create a new special process just for this prime minister. And he wanted to be the one who controlled it. That's what's really going on. So, Prime Minister didn't hide anything, was not underhanded, did everything that he was expected to do, did it early. And now we have the results. Now, is it fact that this will be a screen that is more complicated to manage? That is absolutely true, given how wide and how broad his holdings were. But then again, given how broad and how wide his holdings were, kind of makes it hard to pick one and say he's being a favorite. And with anything regarded to Brookfield, we have to remember that Brookfield, at any given time, anything related to Brookfield, which is Brookfield and like 103 different companies, represents 7 to 10% of the entire Toronto stock market. It's going to be very difficult for him to make a decision of some kind that doesn't affect anyone. About 7 to 10% of the Toronto stock market. So yes, these screens will require some very strict administration, and they might be tougher to administrate, and they'll be more complex than probably with any other prime minister in Canadian history. That is a true thing. But we are dealing with someone, again, if we're talking about trust, who disclosed everything to the ethics commissioner before even being prime minister. And he had 120 days to do that after becoming prime minister, or 60 days, sorry. So I think if we're looking in at Pierre and his history, and we're looking at the prime minister and his history, we see one person who's proactively doing the things that he has to do in order for him to behave ethically. And then we have some person with a 20-year track record who won't do those same things even though he demands them, and also has a lifetime compliance agreement with Elections Canada, who might possibly actually have a criminal record today if it weren't for that lifetime compliance agreement with Elections Canada. So again, I'm not going to be very quick to buy the narrative that Mr. Poilievre would like to be the one that dominates in the public domain on this one. All right, kids and cubs, that's the end of our show. We hope that you enjoyed this episode because we enjoyed making this for you. Oh, is someone having an anniversary? I just saw something go by in the chat that somebody might be having an anniversary, but I couldn't see who because it just disappeared from the chat. I'm sort of delayed in mine as it was going through. But if somebody's having an anniversary, happy anniversary. We love here at the Beaver Lodge, and we hope that your anniversary is absolutely delightful. Kids and cubs, if you would like to help us out, please share our content on the web and with your friends. You are influencers in your circle, and so when you share our content and add a little something of yours to it, it helps us out a lot. Now, if you do not want to miss an episode because, hey, You're busy, you're on the go, and you've got things to do, and you're not always able to watch. Well, hey, that's okay, because we are portable and you can take us with you thanks to the Ray Girl. If you scan that QR code, that will bring you to our pod page. And if you are listening, podpage.com/the True North Eager Beaver with a hyphen between each one of those words. And when you click on subscribe, when we have something fresh off the bandwidth, it comes directly to you. And if you're listening to us on podcast, if you can give us stars on reviews, that helps us very much. Thank you so much. And if you would like to help us in other ways, then maybe you just need to surf yourself on down to the True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube page, where Kits, Cassie, and Elaine are beckoning you to smash with our buttons. And if you're watching right now, hey, remember, if you smash now, you don't have to remember to do it before you leave. Like, share, and subscribe. There are buttons. Give them a little click, give them a little flick, give them a little lick. Hey, we don't judge. But when you do, it helps us with the algorithm, and we're very grateful for your help. Now, if you'd like to help us in other ways, we do incur some costs to bring this show to you. And if you would like to help us with those via an expression of enthusiastic encouragement in the form of a tip or a donation to the Beaver Lodge Emergency Hydration Fund, because we must do everything we can to keep our beavers moist. Because a moist beaver is a happy beaver. If you would like to help us with that, then coffee, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, all in one word, is where you can go to make that donation. And if you would like to make a donation that is completely by Canadian, by bypassing the U.S. CE Tech Pros, then our email address, truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com, is where you can send a direct transfer. And the bonus is that we get 100% of your donation when you do it that way. So it's win-win. Thank you so much for your help. Kits and Cubs, because democracy is something that you do. Again, we are going to tell you about mypcalberta.ca. If you are an Albertan and would like to have an actual other option in whenever the next provincial election comes along, and you would like to have an Alberta Progressive Conservative Party, again, a genuine one, then please go to mypcalberta.ca and sign the petition there to help the party gain the number of signatures it needs to register officially with Elections Alberta. And that will be doing your bit for democracy. Words of wisdom, Kits and Cubs. I don't have any of my own today, but I do believe I had some singled out that someone had brought to my attention, and I would like to read them for you if I can find them. There's a lot going on here, and unfortunately, I do not have them. I had one singled out for you because it was something I read online that was absolutely fantastic, and I thought I would bring it to you, but unfortunately, I did not put it in my notes today, even though I saw it on the weekend. So I'm going to have to come up with some of my own wisdom. Let's see. Kits and Cubs, again, just when you see things that are inflammatory, that are seeking to get you to bypass, again, your logical center, people making statements of fact, breathe. And before buying into the narrative, look at what's being said and ask yourself, is this actually a fact that I've seen verified and corroborated by a credible source that is independent? And when you do that work, chances are that you will be upset by a lot fewer things. Now, it might make you upset that people are engaging in the practice of making statements of wishes as facts and then running with them. But that's a whole other issue that will require whole other wisdom that I don't have for you today. But at least if you don't want to have your heart rate go up, just make sure to ask yourself, is this actually something we know to be a fact? And that might help. Kits and Cubs. It could be a tough world out there, so please be kind to and gentle with yourself. And now at the count of 3, if you would, a coordinated Mr. Beaver, please cue the cock, would be very welcome. On 1, 2, 3. Ooh, that sounded rather patriotic too. I shall oblige. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors. The Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community. And The Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music.